Okay, I'm just going to do a quick little example for this practice number 3, overlap and spread, but I actually just wanted you to talk about overlap with this, so I'm just going to ignore the whole spread idea and get right into the overlap because that's the most important and critical part of this. And I wanted you to sort of contrast because we've got an example over here, um, here on this side, where you've got the female middle 50% is completely within the middle 50% of the males. And I want you to be able to tell me what that kind of suggests in the sample and back in the population. So what I said was the female middle 50% is entirely within the male middle 50% of shoulder widths. The medians are the same. And what that suggests is that in the sample that there is no difference between the females and males in their ability to stand on one foot with eyes closed. I mean, that's what it's telling you. They're very, very similar. And because of the extent of the overlap, it's probably safe to say that there would be no difference between the two groups back in the population. So even if we were to take another sample here, the fact that there's so much overlap would probably suggest that we would get another sample, might not have as much overlap, but probably would, suggest that there's no difference, even if we took a different sample because of the extent of the overlap. In the second example over here, there's not much overlap, and probably there's only about this much overlap right here. And some people call that about 25%, which I can live with, that's fine. So there's quite a bit of difference between these two groups, the year 12s and year 9 heights, and that's what you would kind of expect. You would expect the year 12s to be taller on average. So that seems to be the case here. And then we talk about the overlaps. There is some overlap. There's the obvious thing between the two groups, middle 50%. About 25% overlap, and that's between 166 and 168 centimeters. So there's my evidence, if you will. And I can talk some more about the overlap. The example meets the 3/4 half rule, which means that basically about 75%, which is all of this here, that's 75%, is taller than the 50%. I mean, actually taller than almost 75% of the year 9s, but I could live with 50% because it's not quite all the way over. So 75% bigger than 50%, so it meets that 3/4 half rule thing. Are bigger than the half of the year 9 data. Medians are outside the box of each other, so both the medians fall outside the box of the other. And this suggests that there's a difference, right? Suggests that the sample, that there's a difference between those two groups and that the year 9s are in fact taller in my sample, which I would expect. And because of the amount of distance between these and the lack of overlap in this particular situation, it might be reasonably safe to suggest that back in the population, year 12s are taller than year 9s. Again, if I took another sample, though, I might get a very different picture, so I have to do that tentatively. And then that's where the next phase of this, where we do a more sophisticated test to see if, in fact, there is a difference between these two groups. But it appears as though my sample is indicating that there is a difference and that because of the lack of overlap and the fact that the medians are outside the box of each other and we have that 3/4 half rule being supported, that there is a difference between those two groups and 12s are, in fact, taller.